In today's modern world, we are surrounded by noise, not just the noise of traffic or machines, but the endless chatter of the mind. We live in an age of distraction, where silence feels uncomfortable, even threatening. But in the Shaolin tradition, silence is not emptiness. Silence is a teacher. It is a mirror that reveals who we are beneath the noise. When a monk sits in silence, he is not escaping the world, he is entering it more deeply. Silence sharpens awareness. It teaches patience. It reminds us that wisdom does not always come from speaking, but from listening to nature, to others, and most importantly to ourselves. To master the art of silence is to master the art of life. It is not about withdrawing from society, but about bringing clarity into every action. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of inner strength. So let us learn from the Shaolin way. When the mind is calm, the path becomes clear. When the heart is silent, compassion grows. And when we practice silence, we discover the vastness within. When most people hear the word silence, they imagine emptiness, something passive, maybe even a void. But in the Shaolin tradition, silence is alive. It is an active practice. It is not about the absence of sound, but about the presence of awareness. The modern world often conditions us to fill every space with noise. We wake up and immediately reach for our phones. We walk with music in our ears. We sit with friends and feel uncomfortable if there are gaps in conversation. Silence is treated as a mistake, as if something is missing. But in reality, silence is never missing. It is always present, waiting beneath the surface, like still water beneath restless waves. The monk learns to enter this stillness, not to escape life, but to discover its depth. Silence becomes a teacher, guiding him to see what words can never explain. To understand silence as a teacher, one must first experience how noise clouds perception. Noise does not only come from the outside world, it is inside us. The mind speaks endlessly, jumping from one thought to another, weaving stories, creating judgments, imagining futures that do not exist. This chatter prevents us from perceiving things as they truly are. Imagine a lake stirred by constant wind. It cannot reflect the mountains or the sky clearly. The surface is distorted. In the same way, when the mind is noisy, it cannot reflect reality. Silence, then, is not about rejecting sound, but about calming the inner winds. When a monk practices silence, he sits in meditation, breathing steadily, letting thoughts come and go without chasing them. Slowly the lake settles, slowly the mind becomes clear, and in that clarity, understanding arises, not from effort, but from stillness. Silence also teaches humility. In daily life, we often believe that our voice, our opinion, our explanation is the most important thing. We rush to speak, to prove, to convince. But in the Shaolin way, silence shows us that wisdom does not come from constant expression. It comes from observation. When you are silent, you realize how much you do not know. You begin to notice the small details you overlooked, the sound of your own breath, the rhythm of your heartbeat, the way sunlight falls on the floor. You notice others more deeply as well, the pauses between their words, the emotions in their eyes, the unspoken stories carried in their silence. In this way, silence is not empty, it is full, it is filled with insights that speaking too quickly would have drowned. The monk learns that silence is the soil in which wisdom grows. Perhaps the greatest lesson silence offers is the discovery of inner presence. In silence you face yourself. There is no escape in distraction, no comfort in constant stimulation. At first this can feel uncomfortable, even frightening. Many people avoid silence because it forces them to meet what lies within their fears, their doubts, their unhealed wounds. But if you have the courage to remain, silence becomes a healer. It shows you that you are not your passing thoughts, not your temporary emotions. Beneath them lies something deeper, an awareness that does not change, a presence that simply is. This is the self the Shaolin monks train to encounter, nurture and strengthen. In silence you realize that the truest teacher has always been within you. The monk does not seek wisdom outside. He allows silence to reveal the wisdom already present in the depths of his being. When people think of noise, they often picture the chaos of the outside world, the cars rushing on the streets, the endless buzz of notifications, the chatter of crowded places. Yet the Shaolin monks remind us that the greatest noise is not outside, but within. The mind itself becomes a restless marketplace, even in the stillness of a forest, even in the quiet of the night. Thoughts rush in without permission. They collide with one another, pulling us into memories of the past or worries about the future. This is the true noise that disturbs us, the endless stream of inner commentary that never rests. A man can sit in silence, but if his mind is loud, he knows no peace. And a monk can stand in the middle of a busy market, but if his mind is still, he is untouched. This noise of the mind is subtle, because it disguises itself as thinking, and thinking feels useful. Thoughts tell us stories, and we mistake these stories for truth. They whisper judgments. I am not good enough, or I must achieve more, or others are against me. They rehearse arguments that never happened, invent futures that may never come, and replay mistakes long gone. The result is that we rarely live in the present moment. Our bodies may be here, but our minds are elsewhere, scattered in 1,000 directions. It is as if we are standing before a beautiful sunrise, but instead of seeing the colors of the sky, we are trapped in the noise of yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's expectations. The Shaolin monk recognizes this as the great thief of life. It steals the clarity of now. It robs us of inner strength. The training, then, is not to destroy thoughts, for the mind will always create them. The training is to see them for what they are, passing clouds in the sky of awareness. The monk sits, breathing deeply, watching thoughts arise and fade. He does not cling to them, nor does he push them away. He simply observes. This practice is simple, but not easy, for the habit of chasing every thought is deeply rooted. Yet slowly, through discipline, the mind begins to quiet down. The thoughts lose their power. The monk learns that he is not his thoughts, but the awareness that notices them. The noise may still exist, but it no longer controls him. This is the difference between being caught in a storm and standing beneath shelter, watching the rain fall. The storm is still there, but you are no longer drenched. What silence reveals is that underneath the noise, there is a deeper layer of the mind, a calmness that has always been present. Just as a river's surface may be turbulent, while its depths remain still, so too does the mind have a deeper current beneath its restless surface. The Shaolin monks train to touch this depth again and again, until it becomes natural to live from that space. And when you live from that space, you no longer chase every thought or react to every impulse. You move with clarity. You respond with patience. You act from wisdom, not from noise. This is why the Shaolin path emphasizes meditation, breath, and awareness, not to escape reality, but to face it without distortion, because only when the noise of the mind is understood can the true harmony of life be heard. To truly listen is one of the rarest skills in today's world. Most people hear only sounds, but they do not listen. They prepare their answers before the other person has even finished speaking. They hear words but miss the meaning beneath them. The Shaolin monks teach that real listening does not begin with the ears, it begins with silence in the mind. Only when the inner chatter is quiet can you hear what is truly being said. And sometimes, what is truly being said is not contained in words at all. A person may say, "I am fine," but their tone reveals fatigue, their eyes reveal sorrow, their silence reveals longing. To listen beyond words is to open yourself to the layers of communication that exist between human beings, to notice the language of emotion, of gesture, of stillness. Listening, in this deeper way, requires humility. Most of us listen only to respond, not to understand. We want to defend our position, to be right, to add something clever. But in the Shaolin tradition, listening is not about the self, it is about dissolving the self, even for a moment, to make space for another. When a monk listens, he does not try to control the conversation or prove his wisdom. He lets the other's truth emerge naturally. In this way, listening becomes an act of compassion. It says, without words, you matter. Your experience is seen. Such listening has the power to heal wounds that even the most carefully chosen words cannot, for often, people do not need answers, they need presence. Listening beyond words also extends to the natural world. A monk sitting in the forest is not merely surrounded by silence. He hears the rustling of leaves, the movement of animals, the subtle rhythm of the wind. Each sound carries a teaching. The rustle of the leaves teaches impermanence, for they are moved by forces beyond themselves. The bird's call teaches the simplicity of expression. The sound of water teaches persistence, flowing gently, yet carving through stone. To someone lost in the noise of their thoughts, these sounds go unnoticed. But to someone listening with an open mind, the entire world becomes a teacher. Listening beyond words is to let the universe speak to you in its natural language, which has existed long before human words were invented. Perhaps the most profound form of listening is listening to oneself, not to the endless chatter of the mind, but to the quiet voice beneath it, the voice of intuition, of inner wisdom, of the heart. This voice does not shout, it does not argue, it speaks softly, patiently, and only when we are willing to be silent enough to hear it. Many people search for guidance outside, consulting books, teachers, and even strangers, while ignoring the wisdom within. But when you cultivate silence, when you train yourself to listen beyond words, you begin to hear that inner guidance clearly. It tells you when you are straying from your path. It warns you when your actions are unbalanced. It reminds you of what is essential. This is why the Shaolin monks practice silence so deeply, not only to hear others, not only to hear nature, but to hear themselves. For within each of us, there is a wisdom greater than words. In the eyes of the world, strength is often measured in visible forms, muscles, speed, power, influence. Yet the Shaolin monks remind us that true strength begins invisibly, inside. It is not about dominating others or forcing circumstances to bend to your will. It is about remaining unshaken when storms arise. Inner strength is the ability to hold stillness within when everything around you is moving. It is the ability to remain calm in the face of insult, patient in the face of delay, compassionate in the face of anger. This strength does not come from resisting life, but from aligning with it. Just as bamboo bends with the wind but never breaks, inner strength comes from flexibility joined with resilience. It is silent, yet it carries immense power, because it is rooted not in the body, but in the spirit. Silence plays a crucial role in building this kind of strength. In silence, you confront yourself without distractions, and in doing so, you encounter the parts of you that are fragile. The fears, the insecurities, the unhealed wounds, all of them surface when the noise fades. At first, this confrontation feels uncomfortable, and many people run from it. But the Shaolin monk remains, breathing, observing, allowing these parts of himself to rise and pass. Each time he chooses not to flee, he becomes stronger. Inner strength is not built in moments of ease, but in moments of difficulty faced with presence. to sit in silence and witness your own restlessness, your own impatience, without being carried away. This is a training harder than lifting any weight, and it develops a strength that cannot be shaken by external events. Another dimension of inner strength lies in restraint. Modern society often equates strength with action, doing more, speaking more, achieving more. But the Shaolin way teaches that sometimes the greatest strength is in what you do not do, to remain silent when provoked instead of lashing out, to wait patiently rather than forcing outcomes, to walk away from conflict instead of feeding it. These choices require tremendous strength because they go against the pull of the ego, which always seeks to defend, to win, to prove. Inner strength, however, is not concerned with appearances. It does not seek validation. It is rooted in the deep knowing that nothing external can diminish your worth. Silence nurtures this restraint. It gives you the space to pause, to breathe, to act not from impulse but from wisdom. Such strength cannot be displayed on a stage, but it transforms your entire life. The final aspect of inner strength is endurance, the ability to remain steady through the long journey of life. A monk's discipline is not measured in days but in decades. He rises before dawn, trains his body and mind, practices meditation, embraces simplicity, and continues even when motivation fades. This endurance comes not from forcing the will, but from cultivating silence within, for silence provides a constant source of renewal. Just as a tree draws nourishment from deep roots to survive storms, the monk draws strength from the stillness at his core. This inner reservoir cannot be exhausted by the challenges of the world. It is replenished each time he returns to silence. And so, while the outer body may age, the inner strength only deepens. It becomes the foundation for wisdom, compassion, and balance. In this way, silence is not weakness, but the very forge in which unshakable strength is created. Wisdom is not something you collect like objects on a shelf. It is not found in the quantity of books read, degrees achieved, or words spoken. In the Shaolin way, wisdom is a state of clarity, a deep understanding of life that arises when the mind and heart are balanced. But this clarity does not appear in a noisy, restless life. It comes through silence, through the willingness to observe without rushing to judge, to wait without needing immediate answers. Silence opens the door to wisdom because it removes the layers of distraction that keep us blind. Imagine a mirror covered with dust. No matter how bright the light, the reflection cannot be seen. In the same way, the noise of the mind is like dust that clouds perception. Silence is the act of gently wiping it away until reality shines clearly. Wisdom begins not with speaking, but with seeing. The path to wisdom also requires patience, and silence teaches this better than anything else. In silence, you cannot force insights to come. You cannot command wisdom to arrive on your timetable. You must wait, you must sit, you must breathe. And in that waiting, you discover something essential. Wisdom is not a product of speed, but of depth. Just as seeds take time to grow into trees, understanding takes time to mature within you. The Shaolin monks embody this truth by dedicating years, even lifetimes, to practices that might appear simple, sitting in meditation, walking mindfully, repeating forms again and again. From the outside, it may look repetitive, but within, each moment deepens awareness. Each repetition refines understanding. Wisdom grows not because you chase it, but because you create the right conditions for it to blossom naturally. Another lesson silence brings to the path of wisdom is humility. When you practice silence, you realize how much noise in daily life comes from the need to prove yourself, to defend your opinions, to be seen as knowledgeable. True wisdom is never loud. It does not need to announce itself. It does not seek attention. It speaks only when necessary. and even then, it uses few words. In the Shaolin tradition, wisdom is shown more through action than speech, through patience, discipline, compassion, and presence. Silence trains you to let go of the desire to be right all the time, and instead to remain open. This openness is the soil of wisdom, for only a humble mind can keep learning. The arrogant mind thinks it already knows, and therefore it closes itself to truth. The silent mind listens, and in listening, it discovers deeper layers of reality. Finally, the path to wisdom is not a private achievement, but a way of living that benefits others. The Shaolin monks emphasize that the purpose of wisdom is not to sit above others, but to serve them. Silence cultivates compassion, because when you quiet your own noise, you begin to feel the struggles and needs of those around you. You understand their suffering without them needing to explain it. From this compassion, wisdom guides your actions, not to harm, not to dominate, but to bring balance and healing. A wise person does not give advice carelessly, but when they do speak, their words carry weight, because they come from a place of silence, clarity, and experience. In this way, silence and wisdom are inseparable. Silence clears the mind, opens the heart, and allows wisdom to flow not as a possession, but as a living force that guides every step of the journey. So, in silence, we find the teacher. In silence, we tame the noise of the mind. In silence, we learn to listen beyond words, to hear both the world and ourselves. In silence, we forge an inner strength that no storm can shake. And through silence, we walk the path to wisdom, not chasing it, but allowing it to reveal itself, slowly, patiently, naturally. The modern world teaches us to be louder, to be faster, to be more visible. The Shaolin way teaches us the opposite, to slow down, to quiet down, to turn inward. It is here, in this stillness, that life reveals its truest lessons. Do not mistake silence for weakness. Do not mistake stillness for inactivity. Silence is not the absence of life. It is the ground from which life grows in its purest form. To practice silence is to practice mastery over yourself, and to master yourself is to walk with clarity, compassion, and wisdom through this world.